The winter winds had just begun to roll in, bringing with them a coldness that crept through the windows of every house in the sleepy town of Elmsworth. 13-year-old Mia sat by the fireplace in her grandmother's old house, flipping through a photo album thick with dust and memories. The pictures smiled up at her, black and white, sepia-toned, faded with time but alive with stories. Her grandfather, Richard Hensley, had passed away 6 months ago. He had been a quiet man, gentle in his ways, with a heart full of stories and eyes that twinkled when he laughed. Every Friday, he'd write letters to Mia, even though they lived just a few streets apart. He said writing letters kept him close to his own youth and helped him leave something behind for her to read on rainy days. Mia missed him terribly. His letters were like pieces of his soul stitched in ink and paper. He always signed off with, "Love you forever, Grandpa." She had kept every single one. As the fire crackled, her grandmother, Nora, came in holding a small wooden box. "Mia, I found this while cleaning Grandpa's study," she said, handing it to her. "It has your name on it." Mia opened the lid slowly. Inside was an envelope, slightly yellowed with age but sealed tightly with red wax. Her name was written on it in Grandpa's elegant handwriting. Her fingers trembled slightly as she opened the letter. "Dear Mia, if you're reading this, it means I've gone on ahead. Don't be sad, my dear. This letter isn't about goodbye. It's about something much more special, our story. Do you remember our tree in the backyard, the big oak with the swing? I planted it the day your mother was born. When she was 5, she used to call it the forever tree. That same tree gave me shade as a young father, and later it became our magical castle during our imaginary adventures together. You were 6 when you asked me, 'Grandpa, why do the leaves fall?' I told you, because they're making space for new ones to grow. I want you to remember that, especially when life feels like autumn, when things fall apart, when people leave. Sometimes it's just making room for something new and beautiful." Mia paused, her throat tight. She looked out the window at the oak tree, its bare branches reaching out like arms waiting for a hug. A single swing still hung from it, moving ever so slightly in the wind. She continued reading. "There's something else I want to share, something I never told anyone, not even Grandma. When I was a young man, just 19, I was in love. Deep, breathless, poetry-writing kind of love. Her name was Eleanor. She had curly red hair, freckles like stars, and a laugh that could stop time. But we were too young, too afraid, and life swept us apart like leaves in a storm. Years passed. I met your grandmother, who gave me a life I never dreamed possible. We had your mother, and later we had you. I don't regret anything, not a moment. But one summer day, when I was 63, I ran into Eleanor at a bookstore in another town. We didn't speak, just smiled. She was holding a copy of Wuthering Heights, our favorite book. She looked happy. I was too. That's life, Mia. Sometimes love doesn't last forever, but it still matters. It teaches you, shapes you, leaves a part of itself in your heart, like people do." Tears welled up in Mia's eyes. She never knew this side of Grandpa. He was always the rock, steady, strong. And yet here he was, sharing stories of heartbreak, of letting go. Now I want to tell you one last story. It's about a man who once found a little bird with a broken wing. He took the bird home, fed it, nursed it back to health. Every day he talked to him, told it stories, and sang lullabies. Eventually, the bird healed, but it didn't fly away. It stayed, not because it couldn't leave, but because it didn't want to. One morning, the man left the window open wide and whispered, "If you need to go, it's okay." The bird looked at him for a long time, then flew off into the golden morning sun. He missed the bird every day after that, but he smiled whenever he looked at the sky, knowing it was free, and that he had helped it fly again. You were my little bird, Mia. And now, as you grow older, you'll meet people who will try to clip your wings. Don't let them. Fly, fall, heal, fly again. The letter ended with his familiar line, "Love you forever, Grandpa." Mia pressed the paper to her chest. The room was quiet, except for the crackling fire. She looked at her grandmother, who had sat down beside her, silent tears running down her cheeks. "He was always a poet," Grandma whispered, brushing a strand of hair behind Mia's ear. "I never knew all of this," Mia said. "He wanted you to find it when you were ready," her grandmother replied. "Looks like now you are." The next day, Mia went to the backyard and sat beneath the oak tree. She brought a journal and began to write about Grandpa, about the tree, about love that never dies, and memories that live forever, in letters, in leaves, in old photographs. And for the first time in months, she smiled. 1 year later, Mia had started writing letters just like Grandpa. She kept them in a box under her bed. Some were addressed to her future self, some to people she hadn't met yet, and a few to Grandpa, even though she knew he couldn't read them anymore. But in writing to him, she felt like he was still listening. 10 years later, Mia became an author. Her first book was titled Letters from the Tree, a collection of stories based on Grandpa's letters and her own. It became a bestseller, touching hearts around the world. People wrote to her, strangers, friends, even teachers, telling her how the book helped them through grief, reminded them of lost loved ones, or inspired them to write letters of their own. Mia always replied. 30 years later, Mia was now a mother of 2. Her children often sat under the old oak tree, now taller and stronger than ever. She read them Grandpa's letters, each one now laminated and preserved in a special album. And when her daughter asked, "Mom, why do the leaves fall?" Mia smiled and replied, "Because they're making space for new ones to grow." She watched as the swing moved gently in the breeze, and somewhere deep in her heart, she felt Grandpa's presence, soft, warm, eternal.